Hey, it's me, Rob Ryan. I am back with another fantastic conversation with a really bright and talented entrepreneurial thinker from right here in our area on the West Coast in Baja, California, just across the border. I'm sitting here in what used to be referred to as Alta California, or California as part of the United States now. But I talked today with my friend Adriana Eguia from Tijuana, from Baja, Mexico. We talked all things Tijuana economic development, Tijuana economic growth and opportunity. We talked about the culture. We talked about the place in Mexican history and Mexican economic growth and development history that Tijuana holds and resides in. We've talked about the relationship and kind of the unique cross-border, cross-cultural relationship that Tijuana holds as a part of northwestern Mexico that is literally along the border of San Diego and Southern California. And we talked about her journey as a leader in the community, both in the real estate, commercial real estate development business, as well as the chairperson of the Tijuana Economic Development Corporation. We went into that deeply and really got a great understanding of the economic opportunities, of the challenges, but really of the opportunities for Tijuana in this kind of ever-changing, ever-uncertain North American economy that we live in right now in 2025. So I really hope you enjoy this episode as much as she and I did making it for you. We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jer Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan. Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back, or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. As you may or may not know by now, this is the show where I get the privilege of having weekly conversations with some of the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry as we come together, in this case, come together cross-border today to try to leave this world a little bit better than we found it. I'm super excited to be joined by a longtime friend, and the first time we're having a chance to talk in this kind of capacity. So I'm really excited about that. But Adriana Eguia, chairperson of the Tijuana Economic Development Corporation, and so much more. So let me tell you a little bit about her before we welcome her to the show. In addition to her leadership at the Tijuana EDC. It's funny, I've spent so much time in Tijuana in my life. I just want to say TJ every time I say, I've written Tijuana and I just want to say TJ in my instinct. So I'm going to stumble over my own words today. But in addition to that leadership of the Tijuana EDC, Adriana is a full-time regional vice president of the Vesta real estate development company from northwestern Mexico, and an expert, frankly, in economic growth concepts of nearshoring and cross-border business here in North America. For nearly 10 years that I've known her, she's not only connected cities, ideas, capital, and people, but she also somehow still makes time to mentor, build, and inspire the next generation of leaders from across her community. From boardrooms across the United States, telling the story of her home city, Tijuana, to big American corporations, to land negotiations on the ground in Tijuana and setting strategy and shaping policy through the EDC. Adriana isn't just riding a wave of change. She's frankly building the bridges that make navigating this ever-changing waves of growth between Mexico and the U.S. And boy, are there some waves of change going on right now between Mexico and the U.S. that we're going to talk about. But she brings her 20 plus years of leadership building and transformational entrepreneurial experience to these cross-border realities. She's the kind of guest that, frankly, you want to get to know, you want to dive in and understand, because she's going to help us understand not just a city and not just her work, but really kind of the regional potential. And as a proud Californian here in Alta California, there's nothing like having a chance to sit with a great friend from across the border, just a few hours south of me here in Baja, California, and talk about our potential in both business and in life. So, hey, hello, one of my favorite Tijuaneses. Welcome to the show, Adriana.
Hey, Rob. I'm so glad that you invited me. I love the intro. I want to have it too. I mean, I need that sell in order for me to sit with investors. That's
there
lovely.
we go.
Thank you.
It's I was very grateful, and it was humbling last week or a couple weeks ago for a show that came out last week. One of our guests, Allison, she was like, "That's it. You're my official hype man. I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you on the road to all of our meetings from now on. I'm going to take you with me."
You're introducing me. Yes, all the time. Love
So
it.
there we go. So we've got, as I alluded to, I kind of teased, we've got a whole bunch of different things we're going to talk about, but we're really going to talk about it through the lens of Tijuana, which, as I said in the intro, selfishly, is a city that's special to my heart. It's had a transformative effect on me, both my business life, but frankly, just me as a human being in this last decade. About the time that you and I met, almost a decade ago, which is unbelievable to me because I don't think either of us have aged at all. So like, I don't know how
You're
I don't know
right.
how this happened 10 years ago, but there's a lot we're going to cover. And so I want to kind of start with just a super high level question, right? Like,
Sure.
why Tijuana? Like,
Okay.
tell everyone why folks should be aware of the economic potential of your city. And then maybe in that, just tell us about your city.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. So, why Tijuana? So, this is a city that was established a little more than 130 years. And in the beginning, it was just mostly a cross-border city of basic goods. And it was mostly a city for you to party on. So a lot of people will tell you stories like back in the days, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, that they would cross here and have the best parties, the best food, and they could actually see Hollywood stars because they were coming here because of things that were happening. But then, in that breach of time, there was a shift going on because most of the city's entrepreneurial mindsets kind of drifted into manufacturing. So that's when the whole industry kind of ramped up. So we have this part of the city called Otay, which is right across the actual land side for like a lot of buildings where there's a lot of warehousing happening
Yeah.
since 40 years ago. So that's when everything started and kind of like drifted all the way to the south. And then after that, I mean, everything just kind of like started to evolve. So we have like a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of restaurants going on, culinary, arts, and a lot of people from a lot of parts of Mexico kind of look for this place because it's kind of sexy because it's a fusion between Mexico, North Sea, and US. So
Yeah.
you won't find the same kind of people in the rest of the country because this is like people that can actually speak English, that know how to live like a natural bicultural life. So this is what makes very special, our city very special.
I was going to ask, 'cause like some of my experiences, right? And I didn't know this when I first set foot in this current chapter of my life in 2015-ish. It's kind of an immigrant city inside of Mexico. Like it's a
Yeah.
city it's a city whose population is, I mean, there are hardcore Tijuaneses, as you call yourselves, who are like
Yeah.
born and bred, like we would say Angelinos, born and bred here in Los Angeles, right? But
Hmm.
the large or a larger portion of the population, if I'm correct, please correct me if
Hmm.
I'm wrong, in Tijuana is immigrants from Mexico City, from other parts of the country, from who have
From
migrated to,
everywhere.
yeah, like it's, and
Yeah.
then globally as well.
Yes, yes. In the beginning, you would find mostly people from Mexico City, so that's why the city sometimes it's called like Chilanga Light City.
Okay.
When I used to be, I'm from Mexicali, and there was like this teasing happening between, I mean, us from the state. There was this, like always a contest between the tacos and like the accents and like yeah,
Sure.
we were always, yeah, one against the other. But then, like, when I moved here 12 years ago, I noticed and I saw that there's a lot of people from everywhere. Oaxaca,
Yeah.
Chihuahua, Veracruz. You just can hear the accents going all around. And then a lot of people from the US migrated as well. So you can find like all like on the outskirts and mostly where the coast is. It's mostly US, either young people, people that already have their what's it called, jubilación, retirement.
Yep.
A
Right.
lot of yeah, retirees, and you can also feel and see how other parts of the world has also migrated. Like now you can see like people from India, people from China.
Right.
You
I
can
mean,
you
which
can
is
feel
like,
the vibe now.
especially relative to your business, like your real estate business, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Like a lot of the manufacturing or industrial capacity people are people like from outside of North America. right?
Yes, yes,
Who've migrated.
yeah.
So the
Mostly,
cultures have
mostly
shifted.
Korean. Yeah, Korean, Chinese, a couple of Japanese, and but the ones that you see like the most is U.S. You like
Yeah.
70% of the companies here are based from U.S. and we do either part of or the ensemblement of their product here in Tijuana. And so the product goes back and forth many times, sometimes depending on the industry. But that's like the fun part and one of the fun facts of Tijuana.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Yeah, it's funny you referenced something that I haven't heard in a while because I haven't been there. I haven't traveled to Mexico since like the pandemic.
Ah,
Um, it's like this exotic, like far away West Coast place to people in Mexico City, or even to people in like Guadalajara or obviously like Monterrey, right? Like Tijuana and Baja is kind of this like far
yeah,
away
yeah,
distant land
yeah,
where it's unique in the context. Like, I mean, it's Mexico and it's got Mexico heritage, but it is, as you say, it is this unique fusion
yeah,
of, and you learn it as you go back and forth and as you get to know the Tijuana culture. It is this unique kind of got this American dreamers mentality and Americanized culture, but
yeah.
also very proud Mexicano culture, very proud Baja West Coast, like, you don't want to be Mexico City. You don't want to be Monterrey. You don't
No,
want to
of
be
course.
Guadalajara. Like, you have your
No, no,
own
no.
attitude.
Yes, of course, our own little culture, that's what we call it. And you know what? I think it started to be more like a go-to place after the Guadalupe Valley kind of flourished 10 years ago. So you can see like a little Napa Valley happening also. So you see now a lot of people coming from different parts of the country and also from different parts of the US and also Europeans just trying to see what's going on with the wine country because of the restaurant offer. And now you have like Michelin restaurants as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that's also appealing for a lot of people that are coming here.
And not surprisingly, right, like our Napa Valley here in the Bay Area in Northern California, and I kind of teased it in one of my comments a couple of minutes ago, right? I mean, the truth is, if you and I want to go far enough back in history, like
Yeah.
literally where I'm sitting and where you're sitting was all one part of one country, and that country was Mexico.
Oh yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, that's right.
like California was
Long time ago.
essentially, yeah, like was essentially one massive, big, beautiful, geographically diverse state.
Yes.
And then at some point we created some artificial borders between us and divided ourselves into countries and wars and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, like, if you live on the west coast of the US here, especially Southern California, right,
Yeah.
Los Angeles, San Diego, Orange County, down to northern Baja, Mexico, Tijuana, Mexicali, et cetera, like it does very much feel like, aside from the, little inconveniences of back and forth across the border, it does very much feel like kind of one place.
Yes, yes. In some parts of the city, you can feel like you're just like moving from one neighborhood to another. And then there's like the other difference because at the end, I mean, this is a country that also hosts like a large percentage of people that are still poor, and you can see that. I mean, the way of living in certain parts of the city that are still different, very very different in the ways that we are used to see. I mean, our cities here in Southern California, but that
Yeah.
is definitely also appealing because that's where it drives you. Like I'm actually in another country, right? I can see the difference when I see those type of things.
And as you said, and we'll talk a lot about it throughout the course of all the conversation today, is like that's the opportunity on the Mexico side, right?
Yes.
Is that there is still, even though it is, I think, the 15th or 16th largest economy in the world as a country, and it has like the largest population outside of Brazil, and I don't really count Brazil as part of Latin America
Yeah.
because they don't.
Yeah.
Outside of Spanish-speaking Latin America, it's the
Oh,
largest
okay. There you
population.
go. Yeah.
Right,
Not
like
Portuguese.
120, 130 million people in Mexico. It's a pretty
Mm-hmm.
young population
Yes.
as well. Like, and that leads me to kind of another question I have. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about it. Is one of the first things that jumped out to me when I landed there again about 10 years ago was the abundance of young talent in local universities, like entrepreneurs, but
Yes.
also engineers, creatives, business students. You come from that talent pool yourself, right? Like you were once a younger person who was getting
Uh-huh.
educated by the fine universities in Baja. So talk to us about that. Like talk to us about the levels of like young educated talent that exists there in the city and the state.
Yeah, sure. So it's a good thing and a bad thing for us because I mean at the end that's what we promote the most, and talent and how much people we have in terms of knowledge because of how many years of experience we have in the industries that we have grown to, but also the possibility to keep on bringing more of these people that have the knowledge because they have the possibility to both study at a greater university because of quality inside their programs, but also match really quickly with the industry itself. So that's something that can help that can actually help us market more and more through where we go in every country that we go and tell about our story. But the only bad thing is that since it's really appealing, a lot of people are robbed from us, are
Okay.
stolen because
So the talent
they have,
leaves.
yes. So they're so good, and so the offers for their jobs usually are more appealing somewhere else, probably in the U.S. And the possibility for them to jump, it's easier because of where they are located and because of the experience that they have. So that's why we're usually like working all the time and having new talent in the city and in the various industries because of what opportunity also brings to other sites in the world.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Haney and Company. You know, we all know that in today's complex financial landscape, having a trusted advisor can make all the difference. Since 1960, Haney and Company has been providing comprehensive accounting services to a diverse range of clients, from small businesses to large corporations. With nearly 400 professionals across 13 locations, they offer services in tax, audit, business consulting, and client advisory. In fact, their commitment to excellence has earned them recognition from Accounting Today and Forbes magazines. At Haney and Company, though, it's not just about balancing books. It's about building lasting relationships based on trust and mutual growth. So visit HaneyCPAs.com. That's HaneyCPAs.com to learn how they can support your business's financial journey.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that point. Like it's a point of pride, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
our community develops these incredibly young, talented, educated people at our universities, but then it's a challenge economically because
Yes.
too many
It
of those
leaves
then young people
sometimes.
leave and they go take some percentage leaves and goes and takes great jobs, maybe on the California side of the border, or maybe in other parts of the US or other parts of the world, or they leave, maybe go to graduate school somewhere else and then get
Yeah.
job opportunities in those countries.
Yes.
And so am I hearing kind of part of the subtle mission of the EDC is like, not only how can we make it compelling for them to stay, but maybe even also how can we draw some of them back, like later in their
Yes.
careers?
Yes, or draw more talent from abroad also to our city. So that's,
Okay.
I think, the great opportunity for us. What else can we change in terms of opportunity the quality of life, or
Yeah.
what else can we provide to these young people in order for them to stay and select our city to the go-to place for them to live and raise a family? So that's
Yeah.
one of the key points that we have on our list, which is really important because one of the things that we just have the talent grow from here, but the next step for us will be having this talent program actually being executed and having these people from abroad and like in large scales and select our city as like San Francisco or New York,
Yeah.
all those cities that are the go-to places for young people to stay and stay for good.
Yeah. Or if you're seeking opportunity inside of Mexico, don't necessarily default to like it has to be Mexico City. There might be better opportunities for you and your career in
Yeah.
Tijuana.
Yeah, yeah. Or I
Interesting.
mean, now I'm listening to a lot of young people that are looking for Playa del Carmen because it's also cool, right? Like you're staying
Okay.
in a place that it's chic and it's sexy
Right.
and you have like job opportunities and the hotel industry is growing so fast and there's like
Yeah.
a lot of young people from other countries from Latin America, so that's where I want to go too. So I think
Interesting.
that's something that we can also do because I mean we have, as you can see, I mean the climate, the industry, the potential
Yeah.
in terms of, I mean, what you can do for the city as well as um, something that you can leave for your life, from
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah.
So this is a great
Legacy, real
opportunity.
legacy.
Yeah, the
It's, it's,
legacy,
it's,
it's the opportunity.
it's part of that. And again, this is my words, not yours, but it's part of that West Coast vibe, right? Like it's part of that, like we West Coasters are kind of dreamers, right? Where it still is in many ways kind of the frontier, right?
Yes.
And so it's a place you can come to kind of build your future and build and leave a legacy, as opposed to maybe those bigger East Coast centrals, market cities like Mexico City, New York, DC, et cetera, where it's so much more established that you just kind of become a piece in the cog. That's fascinating. I love that. All right. So we can't go through this podcast conversation without talking about some of the obvious political stressors that are happening right now. Right. So I want to, we don't have to, it would be a whole other podcast to just talk about politics and Trump and all that stuff. So we're not going to do that. But what I would love is to have you help us understand things from the point of view of like both the work that you do at the Economic Development Council for Tijuana as a whole, but then also like your work that you do in the real estate industry, right?
Of course.
And so tell me, like, is the current moment that we're in, this like wave of uncertainty and craziness and threats and tariffs and all this nonsense that we're dealing with right now because of our federal government on my side of the wall, is that causing there to be less opportunities for you guys? Is it becoming a problem, or is it creating kind of opportunity inside the chaos?
Yeah. So I think every crisis or every change brings opportunity. I mean, I'm more of an optimistic and not like looking at the problem per se. I think in the beginning it is a problem because at the end you're used to doing your job in a certain way, and suddenly everything shakes. And everything kind of changes. The rules of the game are not the same from December to January. So yes, in the beginning it hits, and you're like, what am I going to do? Because I was used to just bringing companies from the U.S. and it was relatively easy because you just put the cost in front of them and see what's the advantage. But right now, because of the tariffs, and we don't still know exactly what tariff we're going to get until we have like an actual agreement already signed.
Right.
So a lot of the companies,
and then that might change like a week later.
We hope not. I mean,
Yes.
if it's USMCA, we don't think it's just going to be signed, and that's going to be like the rules of the game from now on. And we were talking to companies, and they were saying like, we just need to know if it's a 15, 30, whatever percentage. And with that, we'll be able to plan. But since we don't have anything, I mean, one day it's nothing and one day it's 30. And then again, it's 15. So it's not doable for us to take short-term decisions. So we have like a lot of companies on hold right now, not committing for the long-term run. But what we have is a lot of companies that have been here for the long run are staying, and they're not moving anything because they know that this change is temporary. So this is something that we have as an advantage, that when we are analyzing what's going on in terms of the industry, in the industry itself is being, what's the word? Even though the situation, they're not moving into a decision point where they're saying, I'm leaving. Right?
Right.
Resilient.
Yeah.
They're being resilient. That's the word.
Yeah.
So right now, from our side, we're looking at what can we do while we wait. So one of the things that we saw is that we still have a lot of things that we need to put into their place, like infrastructure availability for most of the industries. So we have that right now going on. But like electricity possibility for everyone. So it's not there at 100%. Water availability for every project is not there 100%. So that's the type of things that we are getting ready in order for when the wave comes back. It's going to be there for the companies for them to take decisions in a shorter term.
No, it's really smart. Essentially take advantage of this period when, hey, business isn't going to happen as quickly as we'd like. And so rather than just sit around and wait for the phone to ring and hope it changes, let's tackle our punch list of things to do that we might have delayed or not been focused on. Let's focus on those investments and reinvestments locally to just make the market even stronger. And like you said, and as you said, if I heard it correctly, then essentially kind of doubling down on working with the companies, the partners that are already contributors to the local economy who have decided to stay and
Yes,
continue to grow their business, and say like, okay, what can we do to help you expand, or
correct.
how can we help you ride this wave of change
Yes.
and uncertainty?
Yes, but
That's
you know
awesome.
what, Rob? I think that's like on the basic thing, like on the basic, because we know that 45% of our GDP is the manufacturing industry.
Yeah.
And then what we analyze is that we are very much driven into three industries. One is services, which is everything has to do with helping the manufacturing industry or whatever it's like around to survive or to thrive. And the other 45%, it's manufacturing by itself. So we need to diversify. That's the opportunity. That's where we see that we can have a chance in order for us to do more things because of the potential of the city. So one of the things
Yeah.
that we saw is that, and we still haven't gotten like to the percentage that we would like, is innovation and entrepreneurship. And when you were here 10 years ago, that was kind of like when we started to push this industry and have this vertical integration actually happening. But because everything was so good and everybody was buying and everything was just like thriving, we kind of like left it underneath the rug. So
Yeah,
right now it's
didn't grow as aggressively as it could have, because
no.
hey, our maquiladora business is great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, let's just keep
Everybody's
doing that.
selling. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll just have this wait until we have a crisis. And now this is opportunity again for local entrepreneurs to actually put their business to work, because right now the whole rhetoric or whatever, I mean, what's been talked about is that how do we comply with the USMCA agreement, and how do we make actually, I mean, US and Mexico work together again, and it's having our local companies to actually be local and produce their own goods instead of bringing everything from the outside and having only like this not value integration that we need. So that's where we think and where we see it's like the go-to place in the short term.
And it was funny. I was going to ask you, you're a great guest because you anticipated this, right? So I was going to ask, right? I mean, I know from personal experience down there in Tijuana, right? Again, Tijuana is very, very Americanized city. So its economy, kind of the diversity of its economy, sounds and feels very much like our economies here in big cities, especially on the West Coast. So I know that means you have huge corporations, you have a lot of manufacturing, you have light industry, you have a massive services sector with hotels, entertainment, retail, et cetera. But then you also have the backbone of the economy is, as you would say in Espanol, pymes, right? Is
Pymes,
true,
yeah.
true, or as we would say, small
SMEs.
businesses, right?
Yeah.
SMEs, right? And the true small business people is really like the backbone of the economy. So I'm curious, like as the chairperson of EDC, who has to have a very broad strategy, like, do you find yourself having to balance a lot of those interests, right? Like one day you might be meeting with the heads of major corporations. One day you might be in New York City pitching Tijuana to the stock market people. One day you might be talking to 3,000 women business owners whose businesses are like two-person businesses in Tijuana that they run from their houses. But
Yeah.
like that, the economy is very diverse. It's not just to be clear for our listeners who don't know, like,
Yeah.
it's not just maquiladoras and outsourced manufacturing that it used to
No.
be in the 1980s.
No, but you know, our EDC, it does have a little bit more like a push into the manufacturing industry because the vast majority of the membership, it's economic industrial developers. So that the drive, it's mostly for industrial developers who have business. So it's mostly, I mean, what like the core of the EDC, but my view and my strategy has to do with diversification, because at the end, every industry thrives where there's a possibility to do more things and have more industry or more opportunities for local companies to grow and actually have their leases into whatever is in terms of offer for these industrial developers. So our marketing can change, or the possibility to change our diversification in clients if we have local businesses being grown. Like Monterrey, for example, there's a lot of companies that are from the city and they're leasing to local and international developers, and the economy goes in circles, and that's great. And our reliability is now into international companies. So I think that's kind of dangerous if you're only focusing in one type of market. But when you do like a little bit of both, whenever crisis happens from the outside, you still have your local industry actually buying from you.
I was curious, you mentioned something when we were talking about kind of the diversity of the population earlier, like a lot of Asian immigrants, right? So Koreans, Chinese, mainland Chinese, like this is just a curiosity now that just popped into my head. Amidst this chaos, right, that we're in with this global trade chaos, and, you know, who knows what the American president tariffs is going to put on Mexico one day, but then also what's he going to tariff like China the next day? I've heard stories, or I've read some stories about like large manufacturers from other parts of the world saying, okay, well, one way we can do business in the US, for example, is like by coming and setting up shop and doing business in Mexico. Right.
Yeah.
And then essentially having our and partner with Mexican partners, right? And then having our products and services essentially become treated as like Mexican imports, exports, as opposed to are we seeing some of that kind of industrial growth? Like, are we seeing?
No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like the first approach.
Okay.
But then rules of origin, that's what it's been like mostly applied now. So whatever the prime or the prime material comes from, that's where, I mean, you need to like put it on your list of materials for the final product when it goes back to the US, and they'll say, you know what? 30% of it's not from Mexico. It wasn't produced and made by actual Mexican raw materials. Gotcha. It came from other parts. So that 30% needs to be taxed 30% or whatever the tax for that country. So it's so everybody. I mean, I think the ones that are having the most jobs or like the highest pool amount of work are. I was going to say stockbrokers, but it's not stockbrokers. It's
like finance, finance industry stuff.
Agentes aduanales, which is like the people that are like by the border and like help with the cross-border trade. What's the name of these guys?
That's a great question. I don't know, but that is like a niche person that does literally transfer of goods across the
and these are the guys
like customs brokers or something like that.
There you go.
Is
that
what
was
it is?
The word. Yes, customs.
That was just a guess.
So customs brokers right now are like dumped with work because of this, because of now they're so strict. Because before, I mean, we just had the USMCA and whatever the product was and how it was integrated, it wasn't an issue, but right now it is. So right now, that's why a lot of countries that were looking for that at the beginning, and we saw like this huge demand of space by March, April, like this flow of companies from Asia that were coming here to a lot of cities by the border looking for industrial space for them to just put their products in there.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know that how the rules were, but now that they know that it's not how they thought, so they need to put their companies both in US and Mexico or only in Mexico, but then they need to develop companies inside Mexico in order for them to be compliant. So that takes a little bit of time.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
And to your point, you don't, not just you personally as the leader of one particular organization, but like your vision, your thesis is that no community, like no city trying to develop a vibrant as I would call it, entrepreneurial economy, like a broad economy, should allow itself to be too dependent on one sector or one category. So it sounds like good news, like when companies from China or Korea are coming to try and do this. But the truth is, if you become too dependent upon that, then if that shifts away, or if that's bad or wrongs, then all of a sudden your community suffers. So your thesis as kind of a long view of Tijuana and its potential is like, hey, if we don't take advantage of this uncertain moment to try and make sure that we diversify our economy so that all the parts of our economy are growing, then we're leaving ourselves like vulnerable, basically.
Correct. That's the point. Exactly.
Yeah.
And when companies like the ones that you're saying, I mean, small companies building up their own roots and having their own products being sold like in their local economy, that's bringing loyalty to the market. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if there are a lot of foreigners that are also like putting skin on the game and staying where they're putting their operations at. But if something happens and something's shaking, they would return to their country of origin or move somewhere else, because what they're looking, I mean, this is business at the end, and you're like trying to be more profitable. But if that's not happening where your operation is, you would move somewhere else. But usually locals would stay at their local place and try to make their economy work, because they already have family and they already have roots here. So that it's kind of like a total different mindset. So that's why we're trying to also promote now. It wasn't the key objective, but now, because I mean, sometimes things happen because of maybe the universe, you can call, and I think that's why it's my opportunity to be chair, because I have both mindsets, right? I mean, I work at a corporate company, but I also have the heart of an entrepreneur, and I can do a little bit of both in order for me to bring like this innovative mindset into a traditional kind of market.
No, I love that. And I'll say this is about to be my words, not yours. So I'm not, you don't ever have to repeat this, but I'll say you're also a woman and you're younger. Right. And those two things in traditional Mexican business, or especially in traditional industrial Mexican business in any city, but in Tijuana as well, those two attributes are hugely important. Like, you have a unique perspective and a set of lived experiences that is different than most people, men, who have basically preceded you as the leaders of these types of organizations across the country.
Yes. That's it. Yeah. You know what? We help each other. It's not like because I'm a woman, I'm better. It's not like that.
No,
but we have a different mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a different way of seeing things.
You bring a specific set of experiences, and I'm just adding, again, my words, like I'm adding in that in a world of some patriarchy, like there's a cultural wall that has typically not seen people of your talent rise to the level of influence that you have been now have the opportunity inside of TJEDC, which is why, like, when they brought you in initially, I was cheering from all the way over here on social media, because that's a smart move by them. Because again,
thank you.
You not you individually, like this isn't all about Adriana per se.
No.
Like,
yeah.
Right. Like you are indicative of a profile that is more future looking of Mexico than backward past looking of Mexico.
Totally. And we're still, and it's still a struggle, because you don't see a lot of young women having executive jobs like everywhere, right? It's still a percentage, and still something that we're struggling to get into. But when you are in the industry, you can see that there's like a lot of openness from everyone to kind of embrace this change. And if you have also this kind of mindset, I mean, you're not trying to impose a kind of way of thinking like a woman. You're just like integrating something more like innovative, and you're just like one more of the team. So I think that's like more of the mindset, being a team builder, instead of just like trying to segregate and separate both way of thinking. Definitely.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
How do you see, I'm curious, we're going to get out of the politics here for a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll move forward a little bit, but this is a big, crazy kind of dreamy question. Like, how do you see Tijuana, like, in the rest of your life? Like, you're a younger person, you're younger than me, right? So I've probably got 25 or 30 years left of my life. You've probably got 50 or 60, 70 years left of your life.
I wish.
How do you see TJ in like the next 25 to 50 years? Like,
okay.
How do you see it evolving?
Okay. What I see is, I mean, right now the thing and the trend is artificial intelligence. And there's a couple of things that I think it's going to drive us into a certain industry. The one that I think is the strongest for us and where I see us ourselves flourishing is in the electronic sector, but in the electronic sector in a broad way. I see a lot of things happening here in the city and being developed in this sector because of the whole experience that we have. So most of the entrepreneurs that I see now kind of growing is because they had an experience inside like a traditional industry like manufacturing, but now developing their own possibility of products. Like I see a couple of, do you know a couple of the entrepreneurs that we had back in the day? Like they did their drones and they made their own development and design of that kind of products, and BRs made here in the city. And I think that's kind of like the push that we need to like have our young children and now the actual entrepreneurs, and like having them have the mindset of, what we have now as a possibility and opportunity, and have that changed in a way that has the city makes the city more innovative because of their proposal of value. So that's what I
love
see.
that. I love that, in that it ties back to a couple of things you said earlier. One is, right, if you align and partner, if there's more partnership and collaboration between the private sector and government and say education, right?
Yeah.
And so the universities and the high schools, like if you're educating your young people towards that path. But then the other thing that you just said, which I found fascinating, is you just described essentially the model that has happened over the last 100 years in most American cities, right? Which is, in whether we're talking Silicon Valley or Los Angeles here or Chicago or anywhere else, is, right, people go to work inside of big companies, they build their traditional careers, they get exposed to problems or opportunities that exist because of the job that they have doing the thing that they do. And then they see the weakness and the opportunity in that industry. And then they say, okay, I can't tackle that opportunity or hole in the market from my job inside of my company. So I'm going to leave my job and go bet on myself, but I'm going to do it in my hometown because that's where I live. That's where my family is. That's where my kids are. That's where I went to college. And the next thing you know is you have this layer of people who maybe in the Mexico, in the Tijuana example, maybe they worked inside of some of these big industrial manufacturing companies. Maybe they worked inside of some of these maquiladoras or product assembly companies. And then they see things and opportunities in the industries that they worked in, that where maybe it was a huge Asian company or a huge European company that they worked for, that they got exposed to. And then they decide to, like, okay, now I'm going to go be entrepreneurial here in my town in Tijuana. And now all of a sudden, now you've got a 6-person team that's, raising some money from investors to build locally, to build a part for a product that gets sold globally. So that's what you see more of in the next 25 to 50 years.
Yes. And you know what? I think that we kind of lost that because of the pandemic, and because everything was, and that's what's more fascinating about what happened in terms of the economy. We thought that it was going to be like an opportunity for entrepreneurs to flourish because there was going to be a lot of change. But at the end, everything kind of like set up for traditional businesses to thrive. So that brought just more business to the actual business. And everybody said, like, I should do traditional business because it's so good for them. For me to have money. So, just to give you an example, we were around 28 developers back in the day, like 2019. Right now we're 46 developers, like doing industrial parks. You think like that's crazy, but now that the market kind of like slow down, that's where the opportunity is now to like bring back again the entrepreneurial mindset and say, you know what? We have this opportunity. We have like everything that's in terms of offer, but where's the possibility for the man? It's by building businesses from scratch. And that's where we're also working with the EDC. We have a committee called like Country Manufacturing. And we have a person called Marina Guerrero. She's awesome. She's like a rock star. And she helps like these entrepreneurs and companies that are actually now like selling just a bit to the industry, helping them to outgrow and have their certifications and have like this global mindset. And that's like kind of like what we're doing as a difference from past years, and it's working. We see this working, and now all of the organisms, the EDC with kind of Sintra and Index, and the entrepreneurs are working together again, like before, like 10 years
Yeah.
ago, now in order for us to have the objective met, right? So this
Boy,
is so cool.
the pandemic was just like a massive global reset button, right? And it was like
Yeah.
somebody hit a reset button from the universe. And as you said, it scared, my words, like it scared all of us, that it made us think like, oh my God, like we could, like from one day to a month later, you could lose everything,
Yeah.
right? And be stuck in your house. So maybe when it starts to come back to life, we should just go back and grab onto stable things, right? And just hold on to stable traditional things. But now here we are, 5 years, coming up on 6 years, kind of removed from that. And the current uncertainties are creating these like new, hey, wait a minute. Okay. Maybe it's all uncertain, and maybe it could always be reset. So maybe we ought to just be more innovative and think
Yeah.
more entrepreneurially, as I would say. No,
Yes.
I love that.
For
Tell
me,
us,
it's funner. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
no,
just
no,
so fun.
again, it's a different, it's a combination of mindsets, but also like, and I'm again not making this all about you, but you are the guest so today, so I am going to make this about you, right? Like
Yes. Okay.
you again as a profile, like you are a good example of, again, a transition in executive leadership, right? And so if there are more people your age, your experience levels who are in leadership, all of a sudden that is like a signal to more younger people to say like, okay, I can do that too. I can lead. We can think more entrepreneurially. We don't only have to think the way our dads did or our grandfathers did, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that's healthy for the whole economy. Again, not to be picking sides against each other, but just this general idea of inclusivity and equity for all types of thinkers, right? That's
Definitely.
it's a healthier thing for everybody.
Definitely.
We would be remiss during this if I didn't give you a chance to talk about the day job part of your life, like your real estate business, right? We've talked about it throughout the course of the show
Yeah.
already, but tell me more about Vesta. Tell me
Oh, yeah,
about
sure.
what Vesta is, what it does, like who are its clients?
Yeah. Okay. So great. I love my job. So Vesta is a public traded company both in the US and Mexico. We have 30 years in the market and more than 35 million square feet all over Mexico. And I think it's 16 cities already. And I love the story behind it because it's a story of an entrepreneur. And Lorenzo Vero, he is the starter of Vesta, and he had like this very, very, very little money, and he had an idea of having a company just like Prologis and these like big actors. And he said, I can do it, and I'm a good seller, and I want to have like this real estate company that can change Mexico. So he came to different investors in the U.S. mostly. San Diego. So I don't know if you know Steve Williams from San Diego. So this guy, okay, see he's also in real estate, but he was one of the ones that got pitched on by Lorenzo in the beginning, and he got a first check as he's a skin on the game as well, because he thought in Lorenzo he was a great like seller, and he thought like his long-term vision would be accomplished. So fast forward. Steve is still part of the board, and he invited like more people that can add on value. And Lorenzo is now the chair of the board, and his son is the CEO. So it's still run by family, but it's great to see like this people that have this different type of leadership are forming new leaders inside the company, but they're also community thinkers, but they're also doing things with quality in order for us to have like this great product for international companies so they can see a different side of Mexico. So it's like, I mean, I love the company that I
You
work
can tell.
at. You can tell.
Yeah, I love it. I can feel the enthusiasm coming through the screen. This is great. So just to go back again. So was Lorenzo's start, the origin story, the early moments, was that in Tijuana, in Baja, or was that in another part of Mexico?
It was in Mexico City. So he started in Mexico City, but the Tijuana area started because of an acquisition of a park, of an industrial park for somebody else. He made an offer, and he bought it from one of the families here in the city. And from there, the growth was exponential because of, I mean, how, I mean, this part of the strategy of mergers and acquisitions, or like making acquisitions of different portfolio, was the thing that made us grow. And now, like, the whole strategy has been like, everything that we bought, we're going to refurbish and have like in a different way of how the image is of our product, right? In order for us to have more potential prospects. So
And the product, the real estate itself, is like commercial industrial buildings, distribution centers, like
yeah.
manufacturing. Is it all of those things, or is it
It's
just
a little
one?
bit of everything. Yeah.
Okay.
So we used to have like, there's a term in real estate called standalones, which is just like an industrial building by itself in a different part of the city, and you would have like a client there. But I mean, now our strategy has mostly been building industrial parks in large scale. So 1 million square feet inside an industrial park, which is like a small city. 6 super large buildings with a street and with services and infrastructure in order for us to provide to this kind of clients. So mostly our clients are US based, and they're different in terms of the industry. So we have aerospace, medical device, electronics, logistics, e-commerce. Well, e-commerce is kind of like shifting right now because of the changes. But anyway, we have them there as well. And other traditional like furniture building or textile as well. For automotive, we have like a little bit of everything. So it's very diverse.
And in 16, if I heard you say 16 different cities around the country?
16 different cities, yeah. Mostly the northern cities like Tijuana and Ciudad Juárez, Monterrey, and then going a little bit south in El Bajío, we have like a lot of concentration of aerospace, like in Querétaro, San Luis Potosí, Guadalajara, Aguascalientes, and the southern part of Mexico as well.
Wow. We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Shore Capital. In today's venture capital world, it's not just about cash. It's about relationships. Capital is harder to find, limited investors have fewer managers that they can trust, and the industry is just filled with far too much hype. Shore Capital is an early-stage venture fund investing in the world's most ruthlessly iterative founders, helping its limited partners to find founders who are solving the world's most dynamic problems, teams that excel in mastering the idea maze, teams moving with a rapid, iterative velocity and demonstrating radical resourcefulness. Shore Capital doesn't just write checks, though. They become fractional co-founders when needed, offering strategic support, high-leverage relationship development, and a deep commitment to the long-term success of their portfolio companies. If you are a ruthlessly iterative founder with a bold vision, or a limited investor seeking sustained access to the brightest, big thinkers of our time, Shore Capital wants to meet you. So visit shorecapital.notion.site to learn more. And then I would imagine, right, you build these industrial parks and then all of a sudden other economic activity starts to be developed around those parks, right? So next thing you know, there's somebody's opening up an OXXO, right? And then there's a Starbucks, and then somebody opens up a little, and then somebody probably some other developers probably say, oh, well, maybe we should build some residential in that neighborhood so that the workers can live close to where they, like, is that what we see happening when Vesta comes into a neighborhood or buys a property to rehabilitate it? Does it create this kind of ripple of economic activity around it?
Yeah, usually it is like that. And most of the the industrial developers, we have like the same kind of way of thinking, because we put infrastructure around the neighborhoods or the communities in order for everyone to use. So we donate this to the city. So places that were in the past were insecure, or people would come after work and they would walk and they would get like a security issue. Now they don't, because now they have concrete in their as a pavement.
Okay.
They have lightning in their streets, and they have security for our parks, kind of like going around in order for them to feel safe.
So Vesta's investing in, part of the project investment cost is infrastructure development that you're not necessarily waiting on the city or the state to do for you. You guys are doing it, and then the city, the state, the neighborhood essentially benefits from it.
Yes, and it's actually it's sometimes it gets like a negotiation with the city because we
Sure.
said like we're gonna put this and we need like X amount of permits or like vice versa or the tax city, how can we negotiate that because gonna put this into this neighborhood. So that's like a win-win for everyone. So the city
Pol-
wins,
pol-
us we
po-
win.
Politicians must love when Vesta comes to the neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah. And we usually, I mean, and you know what? The best thing about the company, I mean, we have like this ethics, um, uh, like laws inside the company for the inside and how we do business and how we do also have our allies work with us. We don't have like an inch of corruption going
Yeah,
on.
that's
So
great.
everything has to be, sometimes it takes a little bit longer in order for us to do things. But at the end,
Yes.
um, we end up giving more to the community, making things in the right way.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I have a question for you, and we're almost towards the end here, but this is one that is kind of obvious, right? We've already talked about it essentially, but I want to put the name to it so that people can understand it.
Uh-huh.
I read a lot nowadays, regardless of the politics at the moment. I read a lot nowadays about nearshoring,
Oh yeah.
right? About this whole, just this concept. There's a young Mexicana, Mexican American girl here in LA that is working with a partner from Silicon Valley, and they're developing like an AI oriented platform company to help source like nearshoring opportunities for manufacturing and distributors, like so that more would happen in North America as opposed to in Asia or faraway
Wow.
places.
I want to get to know her.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was, as I'm saying it, I was like, I've got to introduce you guys. But my point is like, I've been following her lately. So this nearshoring thing is on my mind as I was preparing for our conversations today. So like in that context, essentially everything we've already described that both the Tijuana EDC is doing as far as painting a picture and setting strategy and bringing collaborators together. And then also what Vesta does in its day-to-day business. Essentially, that is building up the capacity for more nearshoring, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have already essentially talked about it as a concept. I just didn't name it. So that just, but now let's talk about that for a second, because again, setting aside Washington, D.C. currently, like just this idea of a movement, if I'll be the historian here for a second, right? So if we go back, 100 years ago, manufacturing in the US, heavy industry, et cetera, was all in the northern part of the country. And then it kind of moved to the southern part of the country where
Yeah.
it was cheaper. And so da. And then eventually, like in the last 50, 60 years, it started to move from the southern part of the United States across the border into Mexico and like a little bit in Central America, but mostly just Mexico. And then, somewhere in the last like 30, 40 years, a lot of it even went from Mexico and left and went to Asia. And then it moved around Asia. And then eventually it found its way to mainland China after like 2000 and then
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And now it's everywhere. And that's
Everywhere.
fair. But as part of the it's everywhere, and then as part of the pandemic effect that shocked supply chains and distribution so aggressively, a lot of countries, not just the US, but a lot of countries, a lot of bigger economies started to realize like, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be singularly dependent upon stuff that's in Asia, which is like the other end of the globe. Maybe we should, if we're not going to bring it all back, maybe we should at least bring some of it back to our neighborhood, my
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
So has that like, and this is probably Vesta before you, but like, has this concept of kind of reshoring, nearshoring, has this helped just the general real estate industry grow? And then as the Tijuana EDC person, do you see this kind of reshoring, nearshoring, like let's rebuild in North America? Do you see this being a huge growth opportunity for Mexico's economy as a whole, like over the next 20 or 30 years?
Yeah, I think that the short answer is yes. And then jumping a little bit more into detail. So Mexico has been like a nearshoring destination for many years already. So it's something that is not new. In terms of the northern states, we have done this for 40 years. So nearshoring has been part of our lives for many, many years. So it's kind of like more of a trending topic because it has scaled up because of the supply chains that you said, because of the pandemic, and a lot of operations just bringing back home or near home part of their supply chain or part of, their operations, right? So the other answer is yes, there's a lot of opportunity for the countries that are preparing themselves in order for them to bring back these operations near home. And for that, you need infrastructure, talent, and the marketing for these companies to say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to be in Mexico or I'm going to be in Brazil. Brazil has done a great job in terms of nearshoring because of how they made their strategy in terms of country. So those types of things I think we need to kind of like copy in a good way. Yeah.
No,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
and that's
be successful.
And that's a little bit of like Tijuana EDC competes with Monterrey EDC or Guadalajara EDC or Aguascalientes EDC. But then when we get a layer above the competition and we're more kind of, as I would call it, like co-opetition, right? Like there's the broader, like, hey, if we raise all boats across all the cities in Mexico, then we're essentially raising the economic profile of Mexico over the next 50 years.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I have an example for you. I just went in June for at the Paris Air Show. And even though we were going as different cities to market to a company that does, these guys market radars for airports and other products that are super nice. And when we made the pitch to the country managers, he said, the competition is India. It's not the cities in Mexico, it's India, because these guys have like this huge strategy or like very robust strategy in order for them to have like a plan for us and incentives, but plus they're buying 200 planes from us. I'm like, okay, yeah. So that's a great strategy. So those are the types of things that we need to think as a country and not only as states and cities, because when we segregate and we're not working together, that's what kind of happens, because these guys are thinking country-wise and not only region-wise.
That's a great lesson. And again, it does feed back to your specific leadership vision of, hey, we've got, if we're going to think long-term, if we're going to play globally and not just in our neighborhood, which is what our clients, our potential customers are wanting us to think like, then we've got to educate our young people from the youngest ages. We've got to build our universities. We've got to have greater collaboration between our governments and our private sector people and our small businesses and our big businesses. That's, it's crying out for the type of, in my humble opinion, for the type of leadership that you're offering. So that's awesome. All right, last question before we get to our last segment. This is just totally personal. When you're not Adriana, the badass leader that we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes, and you're not the super connector and the executive setting strategy and vision, like what do you get excited about? What feeds you and makes you happy and joyful outside of business?
When I was younger, the after hour would be like having like my time with my friends or like doing a tennis game or reading. But now my kids are a little bit grown, so they're 11 and 8. And that's what keeps me busy, because I remarried, and my husband also has kids that are young. So we have like a lot at our table.
A full household.
Full house. So for me, that's super motivating because I'm forming human beings. And that's going to be my legacy. I know if I'm going to be very focused and doing the right thing as a mom, I'm going to have great human beings staying and giving back to whatever place they choose to live in. So that's super exciting.
That's awesome. And we know apparently you like tennis, which is cool. Good for you.
So hold
on, is it still, this is a very 2025 question. Is it still tennis, or is it now paddle or pickleball?
I'm more traditional. I'm more into tennis. I mean, I played everything, but I'm still liking more tennis. So
you're resisting the urge to become the cool, trendy.
I'm not.
I think I always say paddle. I think it's padel is the way that they pronounce it.
Oh yeah, that sounds better.
I have no idea. It just sounds bougier and fancier, right? But that's why it's a hip trend on TikTok or wherever. Okay, so last question for you. Let's think about this. Since we were just talking about nearshoring kind of at the end, what would be, if you were talking to a client company, right, or wearing either hat, as the Vesta hat or as the Tijuana EDC hat, what would be 3 steps, if you could, kind of help make this maybe a bullet point, kind of actionable answer for someone that's listening that might be thinking about, hey, I see an opportunity for us to expand our business into Mexico, or I see an opportunity for us to leverage Mexico as a way to expand our business in North America. What would be 3 steps that company executive should be taking first if they're considering this?
Yeah. So one, don't do things on your own. Get near the people that know how to do the business in Mexico, because it's not very easy. Sometimes it's complex because of legal rules and how to set up an operation. It needs like the experts in order for you to navigate the system. So that's one. Second, get your data sources the best as you can, because don't rely on just one source, because we got people that ask like, is Tijuana already paved? I'm like, really? I mean, this is something that you need to make a little bit more of a search. So yeah, so one, as I said, don't do things on your own. 2, get your sources the best that you can. And 3, I think you should rely on talent, both inside your company and outside. So those are the 3 things it's kind of like the first 3 steps in order for them to take a decision. Now we have many sources or resources in order for them to also kind of check out the sites from where they are. So a lot of AI now being driven into sites in order for them to see like virtual tours and not having to come by themselves, because that takes time. And of course, I mean, it's slower when they really want to take a decision.
Sure.
So
those are great tips. And I would imagine it's a segue to like, let's talk about how we can make sure people can find you, follow you, get the information they need. So on that, what you just said, so if they have a broad general interest in potential development or business in the region, I would imagine there's probably information on the website of the Tijuana Economic Development Corporation or some website affiliated with you. So let's make sure we talk about where they can find that or what that is. And then on the real estate side, if they're more developed and they are very specific and they know what they're looking for real estate wise, then how they can contact you in the world of Vesta.
Yes. So the page that we usually drive them to, it's tijuanaedc.org. Which is, you can find most of the resources. We've now hired a guy that has like most of our marketing in AI. So everything that has to do with success cases, with navigating the system, and like the 1, 2, 3 steps that you need to take in order for you to like know what's going on if you want to do something in Mexico. This would be the webpage that you should go through. So we have white papers in there for various industries, and of course the contact in order for you to call someone if you want to have like this human
good old school human interaction.
Yeah.
Yes. Somebody to talk to. So, yeah. Right. So for broad interest, Tijuana EDC, if already developed interest on the real estate side, how do people find or follow you at Vesta?
So we have also a webpage. So it's vesta.com.mx, and you can find me on LinkedIn by my name, Adriana Eguia Alanis. And I can gladly connect. And I mean, myself or any other part of the team, people of the team can help you out to source any question that you have.
And if anybody who's listening or watching this show when it comes out in a couple of weeks is taking a trip to Tijuana on their own, or is going down to the wine country for personal reasons or whatever, and make sure to stop in. And if you want to stop in and talk business or help probably get a tour from someone, make sure to follow this. Find your way to Adriana, introduce herself. And if you have trouble getting a hold of her, get a hold of me and I'll get a hold of her, and we can help arrange good people in Tijuana to help you to better understand the region. Because like I said, in my humble opinion, it's one of the best cities in the western part of the country, of the region, of the continent of North America. It's had a huge impact on me because it's led me to great people like you and our mutual buddy, my bestie and former business partner, David Peguero, who's probably the most proud Tijuanese of all time. And it's there is a massive opportunity. And again, like the economy is only going to grow, right? I mean, Mexico's economy is destined to be the 7th or 8th or 9th largest economy in the world over the next 25 to 30, 40 years. And so it is a good time to be investing in North America in spite of all the nonsense that's going on in my country right now at a national level. So as they say, this too shall pass.
Yes, that's digital pass. And we know that this is going to be this is a great opportunity for everyone to build something, do something, because I think the only way is up. So this is, yes.
Thank you, my friend. This is great. It was wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us.
It was great to be in your show, Rob. So let me know when I can see this, and
I
happy to
will.
host anyone that would like to come to Tijuana. I'm open
Absolutely.
for a wine tour,
Oh,
or
nice.
we
Look
can
at
take
you.
you to a nice restaurant and talk
Careful. We're
about
gonna
business,
turn
of
we're
course.
gonna turn this into a travel podcast pretty
Oh my
soon if we're
God,
not
yeah,
careful.
that would be so fun.
Hilarious. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. As always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show was recorded here in Los Angeles and produced by the incomparable Deanna Bernal in Mexico City. You know, we can only grow this show by you listening and sharing the show with friends. So please find, like, follow, subscribe, and share our audio-only show on Spotify, Apple, or via any other popular podcasting platforms, as well as find the video version of our show now available on our YouTube channel over at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And of course, you can follow along on our various social media platforms for fun and informative clips and content at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, wherever you can find us. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at I Am Rob Ryan on just about any social media platform. Gracias, thank you, and have an awesome day.